Hello, I'm Melissa Ojeda, Marketing and Public Relations Manager for Grand Canyon Conservancy, the official nonprofit partner of Grand Canyon National Park. We work hand in hand with the Park Service to provide educational opportunities and digital programming to keep you connected to Grand Canyon. Thanks to your ongoing support, we're able to share this new series, History Behind the Arts, providing you an in-depth look at the Cultural Demonstrator program at Grand Canyon. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce you to the Cultural Demonstrator Program Coordinator, Grace Lilly.
Hi, thank you for joining us today. We have the pleasure of talking with Laverine Greyeyes and Louise Nez, Diné weavers joining us from their home in Tuba City in Northeast Arizona. Louise and Laverine are mother and daughter who have made weaving a career and have passed on the skill of weaving handmade woven rugs to the next generation. Louise speaks very little English, and we will have Laverine translate her answers for us today. Thank you for joining us today, Laverine and Louise.
Hello.
Louise, can you share a little bit about yourself and how you learned to weave?
Shema. Le Miksusita Dorste Alek Al the Yoga Pohin Shagi a season Nishituna Ahajana and she said that she started watching her mother weave at the age of 11 or 12, and she set up her small one, and she used to do a design on around the border, and she used to watch her mom weave the storm pattern, and she always wanted to learn how. So that's how she picked up on learning how to do the design. That's how she learned. For several months, she said she used to do the just like a color stack on each other, like zigzag. That's how she learned. Several months later, she picked it up, yeah.
And just another quick question, if she could explain just a little bit about the history or meaning behind the storm pattern.
It is her grandma is the one who wove too, but she had a different design. It was her grandmother her mother that had this design, and she said she never really explained what they were, but from what I've learned from it is these are like the female lightning right here, and these are the female and then the male, and these they represent like the water beetle and the centipede, like they have like the four sacred, kind of like represents like the four sacred mountains, as they have four squares on each corners. And these are like kind of like hailstorm. What represents the whole storm pattern is kind of like with a storm, like what occurs during the storm, like lightning, hailstorm, yeah. And the lightning bolt goes four directions also.
That's very meaningful. Thank you very much for sharing. Laverine, can you share a little bit about growing up and how your mother taught you to weave?
She taught me how to weave when I was 14 years old. My first rug was a pictorial, which was, it was a big deer and a butterfly. And that's how she taught me. It's something she recently learned too. So I didn't learn this one. I kind of come up with certain designs myself, but not particularly this design, yeah. And I started weaving at 14, and it was kind of like a casual weaving. It wasn't something that I'd done all the time. And I think through high school, and I think I really started weaving until I was living in Farmington. We still lived together during that time, so she kind of helped me learn more about it. Yeah, and when she moved back, I did my own, and I did my own design of how, even with our pictorials, we have different ways. Our designs are kind of different. So that's how I learned from my mom, the pictorial rug.
Well, it's great to hear that it's been passed down from generation, and you can even learn new techniques and new styles and pass that on to the next generation as well. Louise, what materials do you use for weaving?
She said that when she first learned how they have to literally have the sheet. They card they shear the sheet, and they would card it, and they would spin it with like these spindles, and afterwards they used to dye them themselves, and that's how everything that they used, they had to make it. Compared to today, yeah, and that's how she had to do from the beginning. But I think now this one is vegetable dye. So some we dye, some we buy them from commercial dye from the trading post.
Laverne, do you use any different materials than Louise does?
We usually use the same, the vegetable dye. And it's if we're gonna, usually the vegetable dye it comes in season. So sometimes we'll come down and do the vegetable dye together.
Can you tell us a little bit about what type of materials you would use to dye?
Yeah, the prickly pear, kind of like make it a peach, sometimes a peach, pinkish, or kind of like a lavender. Yeah. And I believe that this one is. This green one is made out of
Wonderful.
like the tumbleweeds on the side.
There are a lot of tumbleweeds on the side, aren't there?
Yeah.
You won't run out of them.
It's a very nice color.
Good. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Laverne, can you tell us a little bit about the process that you go through to create your work?
When we first start, this is something that my mother and I both do. She's the one who taught me. And we usually use our own loom as kind of like how we do our work. So we would lay down horizontally, and we will get we usually use a pipe, secure the pipe tightly, and we will get our warp, and we will kind of tie one in, and we will go figure 8. And it usually goes by at least 8, within 1 inch, you usually have like 8 figure 8s. And you kind of have to keep it at a certain tension all the way to where the size of the loom, the size of the rug you want. And before you take it down, when you're done with the size you want, you put your shed rod, and then your huddle, the doil in there, and then you on the edges, you bind it with another string, which we usually re-spin it to make it kind of tighter, and we kind of like braid it with it. And then we usually do the binding this one we're using a 2x4, and then we kind of bind it to the loom on both ends, and then we usually tie it and secure it on a horizontal loom.
So it sounds like getting the prep work together can be a little bit of work. And as you're getting your design ready and you start to weave, can you give us a time frame about how long it can take from maybe the minimum amount of time it's taken you to create a rug to the longest?
She said that it used to take her about sometimes 3 months to finish one. Earlier, when she used to have her sheep, she said she used to sometimes, like in the morning, take the sheep out and then weave later in the day.
Laverne, how long is it taking you to do rugs?
It usually takes about 2 to 3 months also, at least 6 weeks. And it usually varies on what else I'm doing also.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you
Yeah.
weaving 8 hours a day, or do you have other responsibilities you have to take care of as well?
Well, with my mom, she said she used to herd sheep. I think for me, it was mainly raising my kids.
Well, I have a question for Louise. I was wondering, as she's woven from such a young age throughout her entire life, it's been decades, does she have any struggles that she's faced as she's been a weaver? Anything she'd like to share that she's been able to overcome?
It's out that she it's original and auto behavior. She said when she was younger, when she used to herd sheep, it used to take her longer. Now that she doesn't have any, she doesn't have to herd sheep anymore. She says that what she has overcome is she can finish, she can spend more time weaving now, and she finishes sometimes a lot faster.
And how about you, Laverne? What are some of the struggles that you've overcome as a weaver?
I think one of the things that I had to overcome is making myself to actually sit back down. Once you start doing other stuff, sometimes it's hard to go back and sit down and weave again. I think that's one of the things.
Do you feel like you get out of your groove sometimes?
Yeah. Yes.
Is there anything that particularly helps you focus on your work?
One thing that I really like is just quietness. Yeah, it's just, I just like to weave when it's quiet.
I was going to say, the natural sounds and peace help you kind of get into that groove. For you, Laverne, was there any person that's really helped you stay focused, or kind of help you feel like you've made more progress in weaving?
I think one person is my mom, because once she goes, you just have to go. Because there's times when we have to weave together, and we would sit by side, and I'm left-handed, she's right-handed, so we know where I sit. So that really encourages sometimes weaving with her, because there were many times that we would share the same loom. I would sit on one side and she would sit on the other side. So that's really encouraging, to kind of tell you it's time to weave now.
Yeah, it's amazing to be able to do a project together with your mother and get to see the outcome. That's something very special. I have a question for Louise. Do you have any memories of Grand Canyon that you would like to share as you've spent your time in the Southwest? I know that Grand Canyon can be a very special place, and we've had you come up to demonstrate. But if you have any memories to share, we'd love to hear some.
Grand Canyon just Hashait Al Bahun Sundayda Hashait Al Bansun Kasin Jinna Kashidama Kaala Wooden Jinna. He said that it does have a special place in her. I think she said a couple of years ago that her daughter Florence used to go to Grand Canyon for demonstration, and I believe it's been like 4 years since we started going. She says she really enjoys the place and being in the area, to be able to find some financially that Grand Canyon was able to help her.
Can't wait to have you guys back up here again. I know that it's not the safest time, but this is one way we can still share your amazing talents and stories. Laverne, does Grand Canyon hold a special meaning to you, or do you have any fond memories of Grand Canyon?
Yes, I do. When I was younger, my grandma and my mom, they used to do beadwork, and we used to sell them at the Grand Canyon at the first entry of the rim. So they used to sell their beadwork, and we used to just wander around and just look over the outlook. That meant a very, very special time to bond with my grandmother and other family members, because it wasn't just us, it was other family members that did sell their beadwork there. That was our first opportunity to sell.
Well, I'm glad that you had that experience here at Grand Canyon that's given you that hope and opportunities throughout the years as well. And I had a question for Louise. What are you hoping that others know or understand about your Diné culture?
She said culture-wise, she doesn't really have a whole lot of knowledge, because her grandfather was a medicine man, but he kind of left to do his ceremony, and she was not totally involved, so she didn't really, it wasn't something that was carried down to her generation.
Well, I noticed that both of you are wearing beautiful turquoise. Does turquoise have any special meaning to you?
For some reason, I like the older turquoise. She said that she does like turquoise. She likes it. She likes to wear her turquoise.
Yeah, I do love how you have such beautiful pieces. Were they made by anybody that were in your family or that you knew or passed down from generation?
Well, this one, the pin she's wearing is it's my oldest daughter. It was something that was given to her when my oldest daughter got married. Usually, if they're in a Navajo wedding, usually the new husband family usually brings gifts to the bride's family, and that's how she got this pin. So they have significance, and usually turquoise it means a lot to the holy Diné people. It does have a significance to them.
Laverne, can you share a pivotal moment as your time as a weaver, something that has really stuck with you throughout the years?
I think for me, I usually go to a prayer house in Farmington, New Mexico, and that's where one of the gentlemen who runs that place, I would go there almost like once a week. So the first time I went there, he asked me that Father God told you to take down my rug. And I went home, and I kind of like, okay, Father, this is what I do. You want me to take it down? So I kind of go back and forth with it. So the second time I went back there, and he said the same thing to me. And this time I was like, you know how much this is the source of my income. So I kind of debated with God again. The third time, he said to me, you haven't taken it down. I said, no, I haven't. So that time I came home and I took it down. I took it down. I said, okay, I'll be obedient to you, God. So I took it down and I just put it away. And then that's when I started going to San Juan College. And I was able to learn how to draw and learn how to paint, oil paint. So the pivotal moment is when I had to learn how to draw my own animals or what I'm going to make. And that's how I started doing my shoe game. I had to draw my own animals, and I had to do research on it. And that's how I did learn how to, that's how my shoe game started.
So the next question is for Louise. So she would like to share a pivotal moment in her time as a weaver, maybe when she learned a new style or technique.
She said the pivotal moment is when she learns a new pattern, like when she first learned this one, and then she said she used to do saddle blankets, and then whenever she learned pictorial, said she learned a little over 30 years ago. She learned from Linda Nez, who is her younger brother's wife. They learned in Flagstaff, where my grandmother also lived. She said we used to come together, and she used to teach us. She said those were the pivotal moments where she learned how to do the trading posts and how she learned how to make the animals.
So I was going to ask you, Laverne, if you have any words of wisdom or advice to share with other artists as you've been weaving, but also starting to branch out and do more paintings as well.
I think I would encourage them to, I think one thing that there's a history behind all what we, like with the weaving or with other artistry, there's a history behind it. And it's something that's been carried from generation to generation. And just to encourage them that it is something that they should treasure and hang on to, and to encourage others to pick up and to learn and to teach to the next generation.
Does Louise have any words of wisdom she would like to share with other artists?
She says that she kind of narrowed down to one artist that she likes jewelry, is what she's saying, and she likes people that make jewelry, because she likes jewelry herself, and that she has a son that makes jewelry off and on, and his name is Bill Nez. Yeah, and just to encourage silversmith.
Thank you guys so much for sharing all about your art. Louise, these are some strange times to try and navigate with the pandemic, and generations before us have gone through similar ordeals. Do you have any stories you've heard from your family or other Diné people about how illness or pandemic may have affected them in the past and how they're getting through times today?
Then in the Laverine winter that had out that she best as if I need to hold that on day at the hot lunch and she said that when the difference between now is there's more hospitals and there's more doctors. You hear more of people going to the hospital and getting well than when she calls it the red rash, because She said she got red rash one time, I think in 1940s. They have kind of like chicken pox. And she said that she got like rashes that came. She said the difference between them is she never really heard about hospitals until she was like 18 years old. That's when she first heard about hospitals. And the difference between them, I was asking her if she had taken any medication or anything. She said no, she didn't have any medication but she noticed that how they were talking about how different people had died from the rash.
It's definitely a struggle to be able to survive through this and not knowing if you had some of that health care that is an opportunity now to help more people survive. Laverine, these are strange times to navigate as well. Has the pandemic affected you, and would you like to share what's given you some hope or inspiration to get through?
We as Navajo people are resilient. We have gone through the smallpox, the tuberculosis, so and this pandemic. We have gone through it, and I believe the Native Americans are very spiritual people. They pray and they sing, and just their surrounding gives them strength. And I believe that that's how they're able to cope.
So this is an opportunity for both of you. Please ask Louise if there's anything else that she would like to share in this interview today with our virtual visitors.
She says thank you. I also want to say thank you to the doctors and the nurses who have carried us through this pandemic, and all that have helped us with like fire departments and the paramedics.
Thank you for your support of everyone that's being helpful at these times. Are you guys interested in being contacted by visitors? And if so, which way would you like people to be able to contact you?
I would like to email if they want to email us, and that will be llgreyeyes53@yahoo.com.
Louise and Laverine, thank you so much for taking the time to share your generational knowledge, skills, and experiences of weaving today with us. It's an honor to have you be a part of our cultural demonstration program, and we appreciate your efforts in helping more people feel connected to Grand Canyon, its history, and its spirit. Thank you so much, and we can't wait to have you guys back.
Thank you, Grace, and thank you so much, Laverne and Louise. It was such a fascinating interview. So Grand Canyon's Cultural Demonstrator Program is made possible with support and grants from Grand Canyon Conservancy and Art Place America. To learn more about the artisans in this program, go to grandcanyon.org/demonstrators and stay tuned for more history and behind the arts features on both Grand Canyon National Park and Grand Canyon Conservancy's social media pages. Thank you.